Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from News Laundry.
Hello and welcome to another edition of NL Interviews in Lockdown. As I have told you previously, I have not done this background for, my guest here, who I will introduce shortly. It is just the way I live, okay? I live nicely. And our guest also has a similar background. You will see that soon. Today, my guest actually is a very interesting person. I'll give you disclaimers in the beginning. I have worked with him very briefly the first time he became a member of parliament back in 2011. Since then, I have seen him rise quite meteorically, as I might put it so humbly. But I have been following him super closely. I have been in conversation with him. So this interview is going to be about him, his politics, and also his book. So please welcome Mr. Derek O Brien. Hi, Derek. How are you doing?
Absolutely good. I've had a little longer lockdown than most of you guys, but good. Happy.
Since when have you been in lockdown?
19th of March.
19th of March. Okay. Yeah, that is quite long. Almost a month now.
Indeed.
Yeah. And Parliament also shut down during that time, right? Like the budget session.
No, it's a long story. We wanted Parliament to shut a lot before that.
Yes.
Parliament started, I think, on the 2nd or 3rd of March. I can tell you that story if you want.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
So on the 5th of March, we wrote a letter, the All India Trinamool Congress, we wrote a letter to parliamentary standing committees flagging them on to discuss corona in the different committees like tourism, aviation, health. But that got ignored. Then on the 6th of March, Chief Minister of Bengal had a press conference on corona in Calcutta. And after the press conference, we spoke to her. She's the chairperson of our party. And our view was that 6th of March, 7th of March is already too late. Get them to shut Parliament.
Yeah.
So we tried right through March. We did all kinds of things. The videos, sometimes when we play them later, now not the time for politics.
Yeah.
But they'll be, it depends on which way you look at it, either hilarious or dangerous, those videos, where we were not allowed to, for example, I tried to demonstrate just the 20-second hand wash, which my doctor had taught me, not acceptable. So I had to put my hands behind my back. And then four of us wore masks.
It was not acceptable in Parliament to show how to wash hands.
Yep. The video is there.
Okay, that's interesting. I have missed
so basically what we were trying to communicate, and it's not about patting ourselves on the back, because that's all history now.
Yeah.
All that is history. I think, Meghnad, we'll have a lot of time to discuss that. Now I think the focus is how do we work together?
Yeah.
Because I can have another 2-hour interview with you and tell you what happened in Parliament, or rather what didn't happen in Parliament.
Right.
And then, when was it? 18th of March. That first letter I wrote on the 5th of March. 18th of March, the committee meeting was called after 13 days. And that is the time my MP colleague was sitting next to me, Dushyant of the BJP, and I did not know, he didn't know either, that he had interacted with that COVID lady.
Yes, Kanika Kapoor.
And then I went into self-isolation. That's the story.
Yeah.
And so I've been in Delhi.
Yeah.
But every experience is something new to learn. So
absolutely. And this is an unprecedented situation, of course, for all of us. And as a member of parliament, you might have some very crazy experiences, I'm pretty sure. But first, to those who don't know you, which I doubt will be a few, I will just do your brief introduction. So Mr. Derek O Brien is a member of parliament and parliamentary party leader of the Trinamool Congress. He just informed me that Trinamool Congress is now the 3rd largest opposition in parliament after Congress. So keep that in mind.
Second.
Oh, sorry, 2nd largest opposition. I'm sorry. 3rd largest would be the party.
Not now, for the last 2-3 years. First BJP, then Congress, then Trinamool. Anyway, go on.
So 3rd largest party, 2nd largest opposition party. And Derek has authored a best-selling book, which I have with me. It's called Inside Parliament. I have read this. and I found it fascinating. And I will actually touch upon a few things that you have written here. And he is also a renowned, used to be. I mean, are you still a quizmaster?
Past tense. You're right.
Past tense. Used to be. Okay. So he was a renowned quizmaster for a show called Bone Vita Quiz Contest. 90s kids will remember. And Derek, tell me something. How did you go from an area of work where facts are the only things that matter, quizzing, to an area of work where facts are like, debatable, which is politics?
Interesting. Actually, let me tell you, take you back a little since we're having an easy conversation. Before I was in quizzing, I was in advertising for about 9 years.
Yes.
I was a journalist for 1 year, just out of college.
Oh, you were a journalist as well. Okay.
Yeah, for 1 year. My final year in college. That's why I didn't even do my honors. I only did the past papers.
Okay.
So I didn't go to wink, Yale.
Okay.
So I'm very proud of the fact that I didn't finish. I just did 2 years and I got that time in Calcutta University, we had a rule. So if you do your pass course and 4 honors, so we got a pass graduate.
Right.
Okay. Then I did 1 year of journalism, sports journalism, with a magazine called Sports World.
Okay.
Which is, and they used to also publish the paper Telegraph, same group. So I was there for about 1 year, third year of college, just after that. Then I joined advertising. I was in advertising for 9 years with Ogilvy. So the last 4 years of my advertising career, that's 9, 8, 7, 6, those 4 years, I was doubling up. I was doing professional quizzing on the weekends and I was doing advertising.
Right.
But after 4 years of this double, I said no to end the advertising and full-time convert my hobby into a profession. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy, Meghnad, because for the first 2 years, actually 2.5, 3 years, 2 years. First 2 years, I didn't get a television break. So I was just doing stage shows.
Right.
Then I got brand equity quiz.
You were also on radio, right? You did a show on radio?
I enjoyed radio. I enjoyed radio just like at the same time. And then I did my quizzing became full time. And then I got a TV show and I'm about to sneeze. I don't know. Anyway.
Like that was like quite I'm pretty sure that was a long run for you as well when you were like doing Bonvita quiz contest.
Bonvita quiz was more, the other challenge was the brand equity quiz, which was a corporate quiz. I started off with the Maggie quiz. And you talked about books and this.
So how did you switch from, as I asked you before, how did you switch from facts to facts are malleable?
Yeah.
Profession wise.
Right. So, I think the whole of the quizzing period, that time, I was doing my stuff for schools and Bonvita quiz and brand equity quiz. And then Siddharth Basu was doing his stuff on television and doing it so well, taking international television formats and adapting them to Indian conditions. So, but around about 2000, 2003 or 4, I had been like, the company was doing very well, Rico Brand Associates, but I said, this is like, So then I tried this out for 1 year, part-time. Mamta Di, the choice was we had to remove the Marxists from Bengal. So the choices were either you join the Congress, the BJP, or the Trinamool Congress, one of the three.
Right.
It didn't take me too long to decide which party I wanted to join. And so I joined Trinamool. And you're talking about facts.
Yes.
Let me tell you, to make a speech in Parliament, or to do a television show in the evening, or to do a broadcast, it's 10 times more difficult than researching a quiz.
Right.
So it's all about facts. If you only give rhetoric, nobody will, believe you.
But you do have to use a lot of rhetoric to put your point across.
Rhetoric, yes. But I really feel that on a parliament speech, I still use quiz cards as my cue cards. I write notes on them.
I remember.
And I'm very happy to tell you that I heard, and that makes me happy, that a lot of people across parties, including BJP MPs and ministers, they all said, Derek, we are like your idea. So we also have our cards.
I had the pleasure of drafting your first cue cards. You had those cardboards, you would stick them on the,
yes.
And then my briefs would be stuck on those.
So if you want to do a good speech in Parliament,
Yes.
First, one ABC is research.
Yes.
That's one ABC.
Yes.
Two is relevant. How to make it relevant. And three, of course, is the presentation technique. But research. And I don't agree with you, Meghnad, that quizzing was all about facts and parliament is about faff. Not at all.
I'm not saying it's all about faff. I'm just saying facts are sometimes malleable when you put it like in a rhetorical way.
Yeah,
they can be
I think you can use the facts.
Ways.
You're right. You can use the facts. You can use the facts selectively, but then you have to have the facts.
Absolutely, you do.
Let me give you a little example.
Yeah.
Let me give you a little example.
But before you give me that example, I'm just going to point out that in your book, in your first chapter itself, I think 6 lessons I've learned as an MP is your first chapter. And your third point is research, which is essentially what you're saying. That and I can tell the viewers here that Derek has, I think, one of the biggest legislative teams currently I've seen with any MP. He has hired some extremely, and some of them are my friends, some extremely bright legislative aides. And as he said, there's a lot of work that goes into preparing speeches in parliament, about preparing for committee meetings, and that also shows in speeches. So that is actually one of the reasons why I still follow Derek's work closely, because there are certain things that his research team finds which, say, journalists like me or someone who is covering parliament might not. So I mean, you get some leads from his speeches actually. So yeah, go on, Derek. You were saying?
No, talking about research and the young people, I think that's a good point since you mentioned it in the conversation.
Yeah.
One of my great interest areas is to interact with young researchers who come straight out of college, just out of their graduation or their law degree, and then we work together. And what gives me an immense thrill and a great kick is that when they apply to top universities and they get those scholarships, and it's like a partnership. I feel I have partnered with them, and it's been beautiful in the last few years. Some of them are international universities, some of them are well-known Indian universities for for example, be it Princeton, or be it Yale, or be it Oxford, or be it some. So when I see these young men and women who've been in part of the team, and I think to me, that is what my real interest is in interacting with young people, because they get a great exposure, but it works for both of us. It's win-win.
Yes, absolutely. And parliament is a very fascinating place. You have mentioned in your book as well how you thought that it's a university where people go to learn. And I'm pretty sure that you joined parliament in 2011 as a Rajya Sabha MP, and you're still in Rajya Sabha. So can you just quickly tell us what your journey has been like? You went from backbench to front bench, which is currently, and you've written that in your book as well. Can you tell us what were your general learnings, or what was the biggest takeaway from being a member of parliament and a representative?
Sure. I just want to make one quick point just before that. You said you spoke about my journey. Well, my real journey in politics began in 2003, 2004, right up to 2011, 8 years. Working with a political party, the All India Trinamool Congress, with Mamata as the chairperson, and not being an MP. To me, those were the real formative years. Those were where you learn the basic skills, whether you're in advertising or journalism, or in or selling sugar, water. It doesn't. The basic skills, which is you have to get along with people. You got to accept criticism. You got to be open to ideas. You got to identify what is an idea and what is a gimmick. You have to do good research. So the same things. And from 2003 or 4, I had the opportunity to work closely with now the current Chief Minister of Bengal through the Shingur movement, through the Nandigram movement, through all those through all those people's movements, through all the disappointments of getting battered in an election, first in 2004, then in 2006. So, you learn so much from them. So coming to parliament was like it was the start of another journey. But if I hadn't got those 6, I think, Meghnad, a lot of people just come and say, I'm a lateral entry. So come on, baby, open up the doors for me. No. My first job between 2004 and 2011 was to earn the respect, the trust, and the love of my peers in Trinamool. And of course, understand the ideology. Then from Parliament, yes, from the backbencher, there's no difference between a backbencher and a frontbencher because an MP is an MP. But and I think the good thing in Trinamool is it's based on skill, it's based on talent, and it's based on trust.
Right.
So I mean, you have a lot of skill and you have a lot of talent, and you're doing hokey pokey, trust. Then so I've been very lucky and I've been very blessed.
Yeah.
So if you asked me in 2011 whether I'd be the parliamentary party leader of the second largest opposition party sitting in Rajya Sabha, I said, because you look at
it has been quite an advancement over time, and I'm pretty sure. You can see how hard you've worked to get there.
No, but the big one there is what my mom, who passed away 1 year ago, told me. All this you can have. You can have skill, you can have trust, but you need one more very important ingredient. And my mom would explain it in a simple way, where the higher you go, the more you have to keep your feet on the ground, because the bigger the fall. So humility, and not being approachable, being decent. Even people from BJP, I look at them as my political opponents. They are my political rivals. They are my ideological rivals. But they are not. Nobody. None of them is an enemy. And I want to tell you about this first row, because that is sometimes I feel like a teenager. I often feel like a teenager when I go into Rajya Sabha. But at home, I don't feel like that, because my daughter is 24. I've got two girls who are young, all the young team at home, and my nieces. So but in Parliament, where on my left is Pawar uncle. Now, Pawar uncle joined legislative politics. He's on my left. He joined legislative politics in the year 1969. I was in class 1 or I was in class 2 or 3. On my right is Professor Ram Gopal Yadav. Few seats down there is Dr. Manmohan Singh. Then we've got Ghulam Nabi Azad, I think, who's been a 7-time, 8-time MP. Then on the left we have the Prime Minister. We have the Home Minister. So it's like, ooh. But now at least I feel a little more comfortable, because some of the newer entrants, like Piyush and Nirmala Sitharaman, they're comparatively newer.
Comparatively newer to you, essentially.
No, not to me, in the sense in Parliament. They've all done they're all like second-term MPs.
Right. But I would like to ask you a little bit about the coronavirus situation currently. Then we will move on to other things. One thing that I wanted to point out was that you said that you have been asking for shutting down Parliament since, I think, the first letter you sent was March 5th. That's what you mentioned. On the 5th of March, I think that's the same day when you sent that letter, in a discussion on coronavirus, there was a lot of outrage about you said something. You said, also think about the mothers, the children, the brothers and sisters of our country who died without having the coronavirus last month. This is in reference to the Delhi riots, right? My question to you is, why is even this being turned into like a political, rhetorical political match, right? Even Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, I think 2 days before that, had said that coronavirus panic was to divert from Delhi riots. I just want to know, do you still feel so? And
no, I think that's not what she exactly said. She said that the Delhi riots are the Delhi riots, and I don't think she used the word divert. But I think let's be quite clear. I think that this is not a political virus. This is not a communal virus. Chief Minister of Bengal has said this more than once. I think the issue is larger than that, and that's what bothers me when that becomes the issue. I mean, when the health ministry official starts reading out, cause of thing because of something happened here, and in retrospect, let me tell you, and I can reflect.
Yes,
I did say that but we also did say that the isolation centers have opened up in Bengal. But because at that time we were it's like these were the two issues in Parliament. Obviously, the Delhi issue had to be discussed.
Yes.
And obviously, this issue had to be discussed. And I'll say something which may not be politically correct to say, but I'll say it. It was very clear that there were two centers who were very clear about pushing a discussion and saying Corona is very important.
Yes.
One was the Trinamool Congress as a party. I'm just trying to analyze it. I'm not trying to take brownie points.
Absolutely. I mean, you can go ahead.
One was the Trinamool Congress as a party. And two, and here's the controversy, I believe Rahul Gandhi, Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
Right.
And I make a distinction here because I was in Parliament and I could just see the drive which we had as a political party. Ours was a political, and I could sense from his Twitter posts, from what else he was saying, he had that same drive. Question mark. I'm not here to be. I'm putting on my hat not as an MP but as a political observer.
Yeah. I
don't think his party had managed to convince his party as yet because they were still ready to discuss all kinds of things. By the way, it was one of the most difficult, and I say this after every session, but the last one was a draining session. Right. Because, we knew where we were headed and this went on, and we didn't want to make, when cynics told me that, Derek, this is all about the government in Madhya Pradesh. I said, come on, don't be so cynical. I'll let
That's actually one theory that people were floating. Actually, for the people who don't know, this is actually a theory which has been floating around. A lot of news channels were also floating this around. That because the Madhya Pradesh assembly situation was in a flux, and if they shut down Parliament, then Kamal Nath's reason was that we are not opening the assembly for Corona. And therefore, if Parliament would have been shut, then his reason would have been justified. And therefore, they kept Parliament open so that BJP would keep the assembly open. That was one of the theories.
Meghnad, let's not go there because this is not the time to discuss, or we'll have a lot of time after Diwali and closer to Christmas to discuss all these issues because that's a subject. Now I think, we've all got to be in this together to try and resolve this because the view on this COVID, it's not a sprint.
Yeah.
It's not that you shut down and everything is going to be fine. No, it's a marathon.
Right. As a member of Parliament, I would like to ask you, one thing that people have been wondering about was, fine, you shut down Parliament. Sure, I mean, it's important to maintain social distancing right now. But has there been an attempt to actually make like video conferencing or use technology to reconvene Parliament or committees in some form? One. And the second thing is, what is the role that a member of Parliament can play during an epidemic like this? What is it that you personally are doing for your constituency, for the people of your state, etc.?
To answer your first question in a single word, has there been any attempt on behalf of the government to have this, that? The answer is a straight no.
But why? I mean, like, it's logical if you think about it. Right?
You have to ask people in government. I don't know. They had one video conference with chief ministers, but you all know the facts is that Chief Minister of Bengal wrote to 18 chief ministers for the guest workers, for the migrant workers. She wrote to 18. So why they haven't done this, I don't know. Second, to answer your question, and I'm not making this up.
Okay.
From the time of the shutdown or the lockdown, because we've taken a very calibrated approach to this lockdown in Bengal, lots of stuff is open because we thought a complete lockdown is not going to work at all. And I'm glad we did what we did. But let me tell you, I have never worked so hard as an MP than I have in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
And obviously all the work is on the phone. So it starts with, or on the computer.
Right.
So it starts with public service messaging, which is very, very important. It's crucial. And people are just loving it, whether I put that message out on Twitter or Facebook or WhatsApp I'm even for the first time using broadcast WhatsApp, which I never do with my friends. But they say, don't send them. But I'm sending them and they're saying, please send me. Telephone numbers. There's a taxi service in Calcutta where you call this number. So that is very important. So public service messaging is one. Initial 1 week was using your network and your goodwill with other state governments. Before the bureaucrats took a little time to settle down. Now it's pretty much settled down. For our guest workers, our migrant workers who are in different states, looking at that. The third is individual cases. You know, there is a whole system in place.
Right.
But there are still cases where somebody's stuck here, somebody's stuck there, doing that. And 4 is, of course, trying to get out as much information as we can in the most transparent manner as possible. So it's a day. And actually, the downside of this, my wife is a physician, is a doc. She told me my sleep cycle has gone completely wonky. I now sleep. I'm having got into Mamata Banerjee's sleep cycle. She goes to sleep at about 2:33 and she gets up at 6 o'clock. She has about 3 hours, maximum 4 hours every day. I'm now getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm going to sleep at 1 o'clock and trying to snatch half an hour in the afternoon. So the sleep cycle is gone because my doctor wife is saying too much of screen time. So the melatonin level is going down.
Right.
So you need to pop a melatonin if you don't want to pop a melatonin. So you need to reduce.
Right.
So that's pretty much a day. And I don't think I'm the only MP with this schedule.
Yes.
Lots of people. Plus one other thing which has happened, and I think it's good, that we are using different methods of communication. In fact, I wrote an art in 10 things which will change after the pandemic. I wrote one for Hindustan Times and it got such a wonderful response. So I wrote another one because I found another 10 things.
Right.
Indian Express. So that's a nice relaxed thing. I can, writing.
Get time to write and think about things.
I've joined Instagram. Half an hour. I do Insta Direct every evening. Now these are the kind. Yeah, like yesterday I did one with a psychiatrist.
Right.
The day before that I was in conversation with Kunal Kamra.
Right.
The day before that I did one with a pulmonologist. So that's my half an hour break time, and before that 45 minutes exercises.
Okay.
But that's otherwise, it's. I think when we come out of this, there are these new things which are going to happen. To me, one of the deep things besides all this which has happened is worship has become private.
Yeah.
Easter Sunday and Palm Sunday, they're very important Sundays. We prayed, we put the computer on, we prayed at home, online.
Right.
So I think the worship has changed. Lots of things have changed.
I wanted to ask you, so on 6th of March, you put up a video, which was, I think, something unique that you did from the corridors of Parliament. You accused the government.
I forgot. What did I do?
You forgot. I'll tell you. I'm reading it out. So essentially, you accused the government of their reluctance in discussing the Delhi violence in Parliament. So you read out your entire speech from the corridors of Parliament. And what you said is, quote, "I have been ready with the speech on behalf of TMC. Mr. Chairman, sir, what can I do? The government is stalling Parliament. Today is Friday. I need to make my speech and I'm making it in the chamber downstairs, but on the first floor. We have to look at different ways to have our voices heard. So here I am." Now, the interesting thing about this is I was also following the discussion and debate. And of course, for years, this has happened that one government or the other doesn't let the discussion come up about a subject that is being talked about and which might hurt them. And a lot of MPs, I'm pretty sure you as well, as you expressed here, have been pained with these disruptions. They don't get a chance to speak, especially from the opposition. But even from the ruling party, there are MPs who complain about they don't get time to speak because of disruptions. Everybody keeps blaming each other. As an MP, and I know because you have actually written about this as well, and you have, I think, thought about this, I've spoken with you about this, systemic changes that we would require to prevent a situation like disruptions. Is there any way we can get rid of them in the near future?
Yeah, I think disruptions, it's not some kind of a virus which you have to get rid of. Disruptions, I think, is very much part of the process.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if I've been, mostly in my career in the opposition. I think you've got to understand where the disruption is coming from. Since you took the example of Delhi, you're calling it riots. I don't know whether I'm very comfortable with that word. It's closer to a genocide, but that's another story.
Okay.
So now Parliament starts. You already had Parliament, and Parliament starts, and you have what happened in Delhi, and you have the early stages of Corona, and notices are there, and you don't get to discuss anything.
Right.
The government wants to discuss something else. Okay. Now, what does that mean? That means the opposition has to, that's why I wanted to get, one of the reasons I went up there, I thought was unique. I went up and gave my speech because I said, now Delhi is over. I wanted to move on to Corona.
Right.
5th of March. So on the 5th of March, when I wrote that letter to the chairman of the committee saying, let's discuss Corona and the standing committees. So there were 2 items on the plate, so to speak. So I did the Delhi one. I said, chalo, now we'll move on to, we have to address this issue. So I think if the government realizes, and this is what anybody watching your program here must realize, it's the opposition's role. But the house actually belongs to the opposition. As they say very famously, opposition can have its say, opposition can have its say or may have its say, and the government, but always will have its way.
Yeah.
You've got your numbers in Lok Sabha, you manage the numbers in Rajya Sabha very well. Good for that, for you.
Yeah.
But then what is wrong if you allow the discussion on something else? Otherwise, at the end of it all, Meghnad, you look very silly. Because when my team analyzed the total time spent in Parliament, only less than 4% was spent in the month of March discussing Corona.
Only 4%.
I have not used this stat before. I thought of using it somewhere else. But just 4%. What was going on?
That's actually quite tragic.
I as an MP, because my wife's a physician, my daughter is a millennial. She's come back only 2 months ago from London after finishing her studies. So she's like a millennial who's been in Europe for the last 1.5 years. So she was like always there. She locked herself down from the 7th or 8th of March saying, I'm not going anywhere. Now, and my doctor here is my physician. He is looks after the EU. So he sent me one this watch. All I wanted to do was show this for 20 seconds. Then we wore the masks. You know, that is what I'm trying to say. If the opposition is not...
There was a moment in Parliament where there was a controversy over wearing masks as well, right? Like people were asking whether it's allowed to wear the mask.
I have lots of time to discuss all this. There's a controversy. Lots happened.
I mean, the thing is, you know, Derek, this is very interesting because a lot of things have happened in Parliament before, you know, this lockdown started, and right after Delhi elections, there was this gap in the middle, which essentially was just blanked out from the media ecosystem in general, because obviously there were more pressing issues. So, I mean, you would be a good person to give that perspective to us, actually, and you have been giving it to us for this while. I have one last question for you, and this has been actually a very interesting conversation. I have read reports that Prashant Kishore is joining TMC. He has been working with you closely, and with Aam Aadmi Party as well closely. I just want you to explain what his work is exactly. What is it that he does? He's a political strategist.
So should I answer your first question, whether he is joining the All India Trinamool Congress?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I mean, to the best of my knowledge, he's not.
It's a question I wanted to ask, and I got my answer.
Prashant, the IPAC, they are a professionally run organization. And these days, there is a need for political parties. We have so many inputs. We have grassroots workers, we have people with a lot of experience, we have communicators, we have lawyers, we have everybody. You political parties realize or acknowledge that you can sometimes take professional help. And that's perfectly kosher.
Right.
So it's not, it's like, so it's professional help. Eventually, the chief executive, if I were to use that equivalent, is Mamta Banerjee.
Yes.
And the All India Trinamool Congress Working Committee. And I think the good thing is that the team with the company who we've hired, IPAC, I think they're also very clear about this. So I don't think there's any controversy. If somebody is working for DMK and Shiv Sena and All India Trinamool Congress and maybe 2 other parties, this is a professional setup and we need to respect them professionally. And now, when you hear somebody is joining, no joining. And I think there's a lot of mutual respect.
Yes.
And once as a political party, I think this has been the big change. You realize that you are not the know-all.
Right.
You are not the know-all of your own brand.
Right.
Then, it's like saying, I'm the global head of MasterCard.
Right.
So I'm going to run it, like the way Ajay Banga wants to run MasterCard. But no, Ajay Banga will take the right
advice, inputs.
I'll give you another example. Since you mentioned IPAC, I think the way the West Bengal government has the organizational structure, perhaps I don't know about the other states, but look at our organizational structure.
Yeah.
So we have the chief minister with her cabinet. Chief minister, by the way, has always been the health minister and the home minister of the state.
Right.
Okay. Then she set up the Global Advisory Board, headed by Abhijit Vinayak Banerjee, Nobel laureate. And look at those 8 people on the board. Those are not some lollipops.
No, absolutely. Like they're experts who are advising the chief minister. So
that's it. So there are 8, and there's a team of expert doctors. Because so they're the local doctors. By local, I mean from the state.
Yes.
So the chief minister is getting these 2 inputs. Then we have 8 principal secretaries who are each handling one task force. One person is handling essential commodity supply.
Right.
One person is handling, let's say, what are the permissions to be given, not given, relaxation. So this is so that's the structure in place. Now, you might say, why did you have the Global Advisory Board? Why did you have this team of expert panel doctors? Because a chief minister or a chief secretary cannot be signing off on what is a primary cause for death, what is a secondary cause for death. It's a new illness.
Right.
And I think this organizational structure is part of good governance in Bengal.
Right.
And I think the same way with a political party where you hire, it's like saying, why do we hire somebody to cut a film for us?
Yeah. I mean,
as long
I get
as
it.
you got to go back to Ogilvy.
He's
got to go back to David Ogilvy.
Right.
I'm a bhakt of David Ogilvy.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of working with him, but that's another story.
Yeah.
For 1 week. If the product is not tagda, if the product is not solid, then he said, your advertising will pass like a ship in the night. If your ad communication doesn't have a big idea. So the product has to be. And the other thing which Ogilvy said, sorry, I'm giving you a gyan on Ogilvy. It's very easy for somebody to come, see the advertising and buy the product once. That's the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
The challenge, according to Ogilvy, is the repurchase.
Right. As in making them loyal to your brand is the question. Yes.
Good.
I wanted to end this, but before this, I had one question which I think you would be very.
Are you doing an interview or a
answering.
feature film, man?
I'm doing what?
Are you doing an interview or a feature film?
I'm doing a feature film. Let's just go with it. No, right now then we have 1.5 hours more, so it's great. So it's the feature film. I have one question for you, and I will then end this. I promise. Won't take up much of your time, but this question would require a little bit of time. So West Bengal is a very unique state, and I say this because on one hand there is this rich culture rooted in proud regional identity, food, diverse religions, and I've obviously been there and it's lovely there. People are lovely. But on the other hand, whenever it comes to politics, especially, whenever elections are in the horizon, we tend to see violence. And this is not a recent phenomenon. This happened since 1999. We have seen violence erupt throughout, and it continues even now. for instance, in the last latest reports indicate that 23 BJP workers have had died in violent deaths across Bengal since October 2018. Can you explain this dichotomy to me? As in, like, there is this part of West Bengal and there's the political violent part of West Bengal. Why does that happen?
Okay. Certainly, I'll try and give you some perspective, but I don't know where you got this number of 23 BJP workers have been killed in so and so year.
October 2018. It's from Guardian.
I completely dispute that figure.
Okay, fair.
I completely dispute that figure, but we won't go there.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned 1990. I think for that you need to go back. Actually, you need to go back maybe even to the partition of Bengal.
Right.
You go back and you saw the strong expression of passion, of commitment. So there. Then you cut to, that's one chapter, you could say. The second chapter is again the passion and the sadness and the upheaval of partition. Some of the stories my father would tell me, and my great-grandmother who passed it on to my father, of partition and, death and the violence. So that was another crazy time. Then you come to the Naxalite movement of the 60s. I think so. A lot of that is kind of seen through the prism of the 60s and the early 70s, because you have to, as modern history will tell you, that from 1977 to 2011, just think about it. 2000. Yeah. I was 16. I'm looking from my own story. I was 16 when the communists came to power.
Right.
And in 2011, I was 50.
Yeah. Yeah. That long.
Actually, 2000. So can you just think about it? Just think of a 16-year-old and then think of a 50-year-old.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So but that's all part of history. So I think a lot of that and the primary reason that happened, is again as an observer.
Yes.
That the line between the state and the party,
right,
first it got blurred, then it got removed. I'll give you an example today and why it's come down.
Go ahead.
Why it has come down is because these numbers are now down to zero almost. Now, for example, take me or any of my colleagues, we have three clear silos. One is Parliament Delhi National. The other one is West Bengal government. Right. And the other one is Trinamool, the political party. These are three silos.
Right.
I have nothing to do. I'm giving you one example. And again, I have nothing to do with the West Bengal government and how it functions.
So there's a clear distinction.
I can't be calling up bureaucrats and
right.
saying, no. Yes. So my job is Delhi Parliament National. And of course, I have a role in the party. Some
right.
of us have a role in the party and the national. Some of us have a role in the state government and the party. Some of us only have a role in the party, no role in the state government. So it's like that. Nobody, even the chairperson, technically, she has obviously the role in the party. She's the chairperson and she's obviously the head of government, but she's not in parliament.
Right.
Although I'll tell you, she's a 7-time MP.
Of course.
And I'll tell you, Meghnad, it's very amusing.
Yeah.
It's very amusing because I do something in parliament and then the guys will come to me and say, Derek, that was a superb idea. So I soak it all in. And then I send the chief minister a text saying, I did that. They loved it. And they all think it's my idea. Thank you.
You're taking credit for her ideas. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? You are taking credit for her ideas.
No. Those are our ideas.
Those are her ideas.
This whole Ambedkar preamble reading, etc. The one we did, we can talk about that. The Ambedkar statue came from that standing outside Ambedkar statue came from the Congress party.
Right.
But how we package the whole thing and reading the preamble.
Right. But Derek, but you haven't answered my earlier question. So the violence question, right?
So violence.
I understand that your party is now structured differently than the one earlier. But can you explain how was it earlier? Then was there a reason why such a structure perpetuated that kind of violence?
I told you why, because from through the Naxalite movement, see what would happen in a communist movement?
Right.
What would happen? And I'm not being critical of the communists, I'm just trying to pass an observation. You didn't have anything. So for everything, you had to go to who? You had to go to the state.
Yes.
Who was the state? The state was the party. The party was the state. So if you needed to go to a hospital, the state would put you in the hospital, means the party would put you in the hospital. So that was the violence. And I think that has kind of, and I think Bengal also gets a lot of Delhi media. We are the favorite, punching
bags.
Bag. And I've written a chapter in that old book of Inside Parliament where I say how you take a 40-second video or you see some of these channels, they'll never say Bengal, Mamta Banerjee. You don't say that about Naveen Patnaik. You don't say Mamta Banerjee is so-and-so, so-and-so. Mamta Banerjee is close aide. Who is the close aide? Someone who's left the party 6 months ago, or is some little official Mamta's closest aide.
But then is your party now doing something to actively curb this violence and change this culture? As in, you have mentioned that your structures have changed.
Yes,
sure.
Yes.
But other than that,
about Tripura. In Tripura, about 80%, 92% or 93% of the panchayat election was held without a contest. Bengal, the number was low. You will see for yourself, and I think sometimes it's good for a party to introspect. And there's nothing wrong in introspecting.
Absolutely.
And I think you will see, because of the good work which has happened on the ground, because of the sheer development which has happened in Bengal, social parameters, be it the Shastro Shati, the health scheme, which is a precursor to the Ayushman Bharat. Ayushman Bharat is a copy of Shastro Shati. Or you see the Kanya Shri, where crores of cycles have been given. Or you see the health scheme where it's free medicines in Bengal, free heart transplant, free stent, free this, free that, all free. I think with all these and so many other parameters, with all this, I think where the Mamta Banerjee government is for its third term, and we're not saying it in a cocky way or an arrogant way, I think next time when you see the elections, you don't have to wait till 2021. I don't think so. Because many, after all this COVID passes on, the municipal elections were supposed to be held in April, May. Obviously, they will not be held now in April.
Yes.
They'll be pushed back. But you will see in the municipal elections how the people of Bengal have acknowledged the development efforts of Mamta Banerjee, as well as her leadership, and I think people will come out and cast their vote.
Yeah, but BJP's entrance in Bengal is not a threat for you. As in, of course, they have been increasing their vote share steadily. But how do you see that?
Let me ask you a question, Meghnad, since you do so much of parliament.
Yes.
You said BJP increased their vote share.
Yeah.
In this Lok Sabha election. Fair enough. Did Trinamool increase their vote share or Trinamool vote share dropped?
I checked BJP's from the previous one.
Right.
I didn't check Trinamool's. That's my bad. I think that's a very fair point actually you make.
Yeah.
I should check that up and I should tell my viewers about it.
No, you don't need to check it up.
Okay, you tell me. You tell me, yes.
The Congress vote share dropped from 10% to around 5%.
Right.
The left front dropped from 30% to around 6 or 7.
Yes.
Can you imagine dropping from
big drop, yeah.
Big drop. The BJP went from 17 to 39.
39, yeah.
Fraction. And the Trinamool, which nobody talked about. You think we lost some seats, etc. From 40, ruling party for 10 years, we went to almost 44.
Right. So you have increased
I'm not throwing percentages at you. I'm just saying the perspective.
I get it. I absolutely get it. I absolutely understand.
Now,
but the end result
collapsed.
No. Derek, I understand. Absolutely. I mean, I understand your argument there, but I will push you a little bit here more to ask you again, ultimately BJP did gain some seats, right? Is there a active strategy that your party is working on to counter them during the next 2021 elections?
I think there are two things, let me tell you.
Yes.
Two things, let me tell you.
Yes.
First is that we've done a lot of work on the ground,
right,
and we need to package that work a lot better. We want packaging it better. We need to package it, and by packaging it, I don't mean you have to have an advertisement or you have to buy some millions of rupees on Facebook. No, we need to go to the people and say, hey, listen, you like this, one. And two, like in any political party, and there's nothing being ashamed of saying this, we set up the political party in 1998. Then we were at the lowest in 2004 to 6. Then we went right up there. And I think 2019, in the comparative lesser success, I'll say, it also gave us a time to introspect, to do things better, to see what mistakes we had made, and if there was a streak of arrogance setting in among local councillor or a local MLA or an MP, then you realize that, listen, back to the basics. And there's nothing wrong in a political party introspecting. If I say, no, the percentage came down and the percentage, all that happened. That's why I told you, 40 to 44, we went up. But still some time to
introspect and basically change some strategies. And I think you mentioned communication as well, as in your book also you say go back to the grassroots, and I think that's what you were saying. Thank you so much, Derek, for spending so much time with us. We have exceeded our time limit, but that was the intention all along. Because
thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this interview.